Board of County Commissioners agenda setting. This is a regular meeting. It is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. It is 9:21 a.m. This session is set to go until 12:15 today. This is a hybrid meeting. We're at 3000 Pacific Avenue, room 110. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. To my right is Assistant County Manager Rob Gelder. We have Vice Chair Ty Menser. We have Commissioner Wayne Fournier. To my left, we have Interim County Manager Robin Campbell, Commissioner Emily Klaus, and Commissioner Gary Edwards. We'll start our agenda today with a review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for a meeting of December 5th, 2023, and that is actually canceled. So our meeting for this afternoon is canceled. We do have public hearings this afternoon. And there are public hearings on the biennium budget for anyone interested. They start at 1:30. The first one is for transportation, environment, and land use. At 2:30, there is one for health and human services and emergency services. At 3:30, we have updates to Thurston County water and sewer utility rates and charges. At 3:30, we have the rate increases for Lake Lawrence Management District. At 4 p.m., we have revenue to support the 2024 through 2025 biennium budget. And at 6 p.m., we have open public testimony. So for any members of the public who are interested, we will be here from 1:30 to 6. Next is the review of our Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of December 12th, 2023. So on December 12th, we'll call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. There will be approval of the Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 agenda. We have a presentation, and it's Marshall's Day Proclamation.
Yes, so this proclamation is a celebration of the courthouse facility dog. He is an emotional support service animal who has been with the county for 10 years now, so.
Is he gonna be here?
I think so,
Awesome.
yeah. I think it'll be fun to have him here and issue this proclamation.
And I'll get you all a copy of that proclamation as soon as we get it from the prosecuting attorney's office. I'm anticipating to have it tomorrow.
Marcel's, have you met him?
No.
Oh, Marshall. Can we work with the aides to get him a little basket for his birthday?
I'm working on a bark box already.
What a bark box. Bark box.
Let me know how I can help with that. It's very exciting. Okay. Any questions on Marshall's Day Proclamation? Okay. Next, there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
No follow-up at this time.
Okay. Any questions? Next, we have consent items 3A through 3H. Item 3A from the auditor's office is the approval of the voucher list for the week of November 13th. Item B is also the approval of the voucher list for the week of November 20th.
We are catching up on approval of voucher lists due to certain cancellations of some of your business meetings. So we have items A and B are approval for expenditures of the county during those 2 weeks.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Item 3C, Emergency Services 2024 Private Ambulance License Renewal.
Yes, so this item is to renew the applications, and I'm gonna ask Ben to review this with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Per the Thurston County Ambulance Code, we do renew private applications every single year for private carriers. Our two carriers in this county are Olympic Ambulance and AMR. Both of these have been reviewed and approved by our Operations Committee unanimously, as well as approved by the EMS Council unanimously, and are brought to you for approval of their applications for 2024.
Any questions? Okay. Okay, Ben, next item is for you as well. Item 3D is the sole source contract to procure Motorola
I know.
Water
I-
polo, yeah.
I had
Radios
so many jokes ready.
for the Emergency Coordination Center.
Go ahead, Ben.
With this, this is a similar procurement as we did for the medic units. Again, this is a reminder that TCOM is updating our entire radio infrastructure to a digital system for our Emergency Coordination Center to be able to communicate effectively in the event of a disaster. We do need to replace 2 of those radios in the Coordination Center. Budget approval was made in the 2023 budget, but with a variety of different aspects that occurred this year in terms of transitions with radio expertise in the county and attempting to try to order these in a timely fashion. We did find out that TCOM placed an order for a truing back in June, and Motorola is no longer giving us a date. And so what you will see in this, to be perfectly transparent, is that we do need to replace these radios. The budget is currently in our 23 budget. We're actually going to be under budget by $22,000, so there'll be a $22,000 reversion. But we will be asking in BA1 for budget appropriation in 2024. So.
Thank you. Questions?
You mentioned reversion, and I don't think that reverts back to the general fund, though.
For emergency management funds, yes.
Does it go back to general fund?
Emergency management, Medic One has a restricted fund, but emergency management is paid from the general fund.
It is gonna go back to the
It is
general.
in the general fund if it's not, if the product is not received before December 31st. You need to pay for it in the year in which it is received.
Thank you.
Motorola can guarantee we will not pay for it this year because it will not be received.
So we'll need to carry
You'll
forward.
see it in BA1.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So I'm wondering if we already know that we're not gonna be able to receive it this year.
But we need to place the order. They need your approval to place this order, even though we're not gonna, the goods are not gonna come in this year.
Getting that part of thing, but then why wouldn't there be another action just approving it for next year instead of then having to come back? If we know that this is gonna be an item that's gonna be coming back next year because we're not gonna receive it this year, is there a way that we can just,
So the contract needs to be signed now, so we can get the order in. The other action that you will see is an amendment to your budget.
okay,
And we amend the budget in a package. So what we could do as part of and I don't know if any of the budget folks are listening to this, I don't think Nicole's back there, is we could add this to the, it's not an error, but we have a short error list for the budget that we know we need to correct, that we'll go over on Wednesday. Gosh, is that just tomorrow? And we could add this, that we need to shift this money forward to that list.
I mean, that would be for me, instead of then having to bring in another action for,
Ben will not be bringing in another action. It will be part of one of your budget amendments.
so then, yeah, for me, let's just, the faster we can streamline, or not the fastest,
Sure.
but if we can streamline in any way.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item E from Human Resources, this is the Board of Equalization's request to convene.
Yes, so the Board of County Commissioners issues a directive each year for the Board of Equalization to convene to begin work on property assessment appeals. Now, this says for the 2022 assessment year. That's because we have just received our tax notices for 2022. These are appeals to the valuation issued by the assessor. And once the Board of County Commissioners approves the Board of Equalization's convening, then they will set their schedule and begin their work accordingly.
Okay, I
happy to answer or attempt to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? I do have a couple of questions. So we're in 2022 assessment year, so does that mean we're behind on hearing these for them to set their schedule?
So that is a good question, and I can ask Ruth and get back to you on that.
We heard, I don't remember if it was late last year, from the assessor in regards to his concerns with the Board of Equalization not meeting. And so I'm wondering, like, just kind of trying to connect the dots between his concerns and them not hearing these and then seeing this property assessment appeals for the 2022 assessment year. So I would like to get some more.
We can ask Ruth to be here next Tuesday morning to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Could I add something to that?
Okay, sorry.
And what about the possibility of, because we do have questions and Ruth may or may not know, but I think it's worth having the attorney here to help us when we make those kind of decisions that we really don't know. If everybody around the table says, well, I really don't know. And I don't think that's being expecting too much to have the attorney be available to us.
So I appreciate your request, and I will ask that Elizabeth be here, or whichever attorney Ruth generally works with, might be Jane. However, as you know, the attorneys are generally reluctant to answer questions in an open meeting.
They might know the answer and they could hear what the chair asked, you know.
Yep. If you have a specific question that we could pass on to the attorneys, that would help, because that way they could be prepared to provide you an answer. I'm just saying, you
There's
know,
some
we
protection.
know the process here.
We
So,
do. Doesn't
well,
sound like we do.
I'm not saying the process for the Board of Equalization. What I'm saying is we have had this conversation about having an attorney present, and we are all aware that they will not come and provide you advice in an open meeting, and that they prefer to have specific questions when they come. So I'm happy to invite them, but I don't think that that gets to your concern.
Well, I just think there ought to be an attorney at every one of our meetings. That's my perspective.
I do not
but
disagree.
I don't know where my seatmates are on that issue. I know like the port has an attorney at every meeting they have. I don't know
Yep.
why we can't either. There's an Island County Supreme Court decision that says we can't do outside counsel.
That's correct.
But we are in control of the budget of the prosecuting attorney. We ought to let them know that.
I'd be happy to invite Mr. Judenheim here to discuss this
Okay.
issue with you.
We'll probably have
Thank
to
you.
pay for another lawyer.
Well, that's kind of what I was like,
Yeah.
he's probably gonna make a budget request.
I mean, I think if we're willing to pay for it, we could have it.
It ought to go with his job. He gets adequately compensated. That's my argument.
So we'll be having a conversation with the prosecutor later, and might be a budget request, and we'll discuss it at that time. And okay. Public Works. Moving on to consent items, 3F, authorization to issue a request for proposals for a Thurston County Lake Management District Submerged Aquatic Vegetation Control Contract.
I'm sorry, your Commissioner. So this item is an RFP to acquire services that would address submerged aquatic vegetation control at Lake Lawrence. Go ahead.
It's Tim
Oh, no,
Wilson.
that's, yeah.
They're gonna-
I think Tim's on
Yeah.
the screen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tim Wilson, Water Resources Manager with Public Works. Yes, this is a request for proposal for submerged vegetation control that would incorporate all four of the LMDs. So this would be ultimately, hopefully result in a contract that could be used by Offutt, Pattison, Lake Lawrence, and Long Lake for their annual work, weed control work.
Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, so I thought we had established that Pattison and Offutt, and especially Offutt, because that was explicitly discussed, was not gonna take any action until they developed their IVAMP. Because if you remember during the public testimony and all that, they were like, we don't even, there was dispute from some residents about use of chemicals, and they said, we don't know that we're even gonna be using chemicals, or we don't know what we need because we need to do this study. So I'm curious why they would be included in the 2024 contract for this.
Same thing for Pattison.
Yeah, same thing for Pattison, but I'm bringing up Offutt because it was explicitly discussed during the Offutt debate by the steering committee.
Yeah, Commissioner, I don't know that I can speak to that. The Assistant County Manager is working with the communities and, as the board's aware, working on a potential transition of in the way that the LMDs are managed and incorporating environmental health, and ultimately environmental health would receive these proposals and work to develop a contract that would be managed in part through environmental health. Public Works was tasked with issuing an RFP and taking that through the board process to allow to accept proposals for this contract. As far as the IVAMPs go, I think your recollection is correct in that the communication out to the communities, at least initially, was that they would be required to have an IVAMP in place. I know that county staff, along with the communities out there, have gone through the process of applying to the Department of Ecology for funding to kind of fast track those plans, if you will. And I guess that's probably all I'm able to say at this point.
If I may sort of piggyback on that, this was really an attempt as part of the transition to simplify and streamline the contract process so that we could have one contract with potentially 4 different work or scopes of work for each one of the lakes. And so this is kind of taking we're starting fresh, really, and we'll be finding or identifying a contractor to do the work. But what happens on each year will be dependent upon the work program of the various lakes.
So even though you're bringing this umbrella, there may be no action for Pattison and Offutt pursuant to this contract because they're not there yet.
It remains to be seen, right?
I just want to make sure nothing's changed from my understanding of where we were going.
No.
And this may not be the right place to talk about this, but there's been talk about the use of glyphosate or whatever, which in Pattison, I think, and when I looked into this issue a few years ago with respect to Black Lake, I was told that that was allowed to be used in a limited fashion for non-submerged vegetation because its control could be spread, but it was not recommended or approved to be used in the water because then you can't control it and it's extremely cancerous and damaging. So is this contract that's being proposed going to follow that those safeguards in terms of not using that in controlling submerged aquatic vegetation? I'll
So,
need that assurance.
and I would look to Tim since he's has gone through this process more than I have. I'm still in the learning curve, but basically the actual prescriptions will kind of drive sort of what, so the LMD steering committees will then identify those areas of treatment within the respective lakes. And then there's the process of actually unfolding sort of what is that treatment? Is it mechanical? Is it chemical, et cetera? And so then the contractor would work with the steering committee to actually identify the appropriate tool, we'll call it. Because there are a number of items that have been reviewed by environmental health, which kind of rates them as to sort of their efficacy and impact. And so they would then go through that list to identify the best tool for the whatever weed or et cetera that's being addressed. So, Tim.
I mean, I'm gonna ask Tim, because my understanding was that our rules kind of covered this in a way that I was comfortable with based on the science that I understand. But then I hear from the community that it's happening. I don't know if it's wrong. And now we've got this contract where we're moving this a little further away from county control to a contractor. So I just need to, this is a point where I think I need to be sure that we're not moving away from those county parameters that had been described to me a few years ago when I was deep into this with respect to Blackley. Tim, do you know about how, would this contract be subject to the, am I right about how we use that particular chemical under county rules? And then would that extend and limit this contractor to follow those same rules?
So first, in respect to this RFP and the subsequent contract that would be delivered as part of it, this is specific to submerged vegetation. So this is vegetation that is primarily rooted to the bottom underground. The herbicides that are requested to be included in this proposal does not include glyphosate. It includes endothol, sonar, and procelicor, I believe, which are aquatically approved herbicides that have been approved for use by the Board of Health and are approved for ecology for that application, for applying directly to the water for weed control that live and grow primarily within the water column. Then getting to your question of glyphosate and glyphosate use. So glyphosate is included in the county's toolbox, if you will, for terrestrial emerged vegetation. It's utilized on a very limited, very specific basis. In most cases, there are alternatives that are also included in our prescriptions, and whenever possible, those are selected rather than glyphosate. And then as part of the planning effort, which with each of the particular lakes and in the develop of that long range planning process, the target species, the problems, if you will, would be identified, and then discussion within the community would take place as to which herbicides could be considered. And then of course the Board of Health would be looped into that question. So hopefully that answers your question. This contract doesn't have any nexus to glyphosate.
Thank you.
Commissioner Edwards?
Tim, whatever is used in any of the lakes in Thurston County or anywhere in Thurston County is pre-approved by the Department of Ecology, isn't it? Don't we make sure we don't go outside the boundaries of what the Department of Ecology allows?
Yes, the expectation of the contractor would be to use a state-approved aquatic herbicide, and that is what is included in this contract. So to your point, yes, all of the herbicides that are used in the lakes currently are approved by the Department of Ecology for use.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner Munster.
Just to drill down on that point, though, the Long Lake Steering Committee Chairman, Mr. Carmen, has argued to me that one of the reasons why he wants to be a lake management district and not a special district is because he's not comfortable with the number of chemicals that Department of Ecology permits. He is more comfortable with the county's rules, which are stricter, and that's one of the main arguments that he's made to me. So we can't always, and those guys, as you've pointed out many times, are experts on, kind of, they've been working on this for 30 years on their lakes. So that speaks pretty loudly to me that we can't always rely on Department of Ecology to get it perfectly right or to be protective enough.
But even if they were a special purpose district, wouldn't they be able to
They would be able.
say what their contractor?
Mr. Carmen's argument is he won't always be there. So having us within the purview of the county rules gives him the assurance that even when he needs to retire and be off of that steering committee, safe practices will be employed, rather than another steering committee that for a special district that might not use the same caution.
Any additional questions? Okay, I have questions going back to the IVAP conversation, right? So heard this from Pattison Lake, pretty just that they were trying to save, as much as they could once they started to get the IVAP process started and then go on to the contract. And so just going back to that, even though they don't need it, is this something that they have to pay for? And are they putting in resources into something where they haven't even completed the IVAP yet or gone through that process?
So this, and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but basically going out for the RFP will just identify a contractor that each of the 4 LMDs could utilize. Just having the contract doesn't mean they executed any work, but they would be responsible for payment of any of the services that they receive from the contractor. So that would happen upon such time that they have developed their work program and have the resources to do it.
So
I would just add to that, if I could, it might be helpful to know that this is a request for what would be a 5-year contract. So it is, to the assistant county manager's point, whether or not there's any work within the year or 18 months or whatever, there very well may or may not be, but it's a 5-year contract. So the expectation would be if they do engage in that planning effort, there would be a contract in place when they're ready to do the work.
thank you for that clarification. That helps. With the IVAP, how long does that process take?
I'll leave it to Tim. That's not one that I've done before, but basically they have submitted, both Pattison and Offutt have submitted applications for funding through the Department of Ecology. Should hear in the not too distant future as to whether or not they've been successful in getting those grants that will help fund. So then they would need to actually contract with a consultant to produce the IVAP for them. And I don't know how long that would take.
I would say that it is dependent somewhat upon engagement of the community and how much consensus there is within the community as to what they're trying to achieve. To throw out a number, I would say probably 3 to 6 months once there's a contractor consultant on board to take them through that process.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Moving on to item G. Thank you, Tim. From Public Works, Bridge Inspection Agreement between Thurston County and Washington State Department of Transportation.
Just gonna turn this straight to Matt.
Thank you. The bridge inspection agreement for your consideration is between Thurston County and the Washington State Department of Transportation. It provides for WashDOT staff to perform required federal underwater bridge inspections on 4 bridges that are inspected by the county. Public Works staff does not have underwater certifications. We're not scuba divers. These bridges include 3 county-owned bridges, the Endicott Road Bridge, and then the Independence Road and the Prather Road bridges over the Chehalis River. The 4th bridge is on Carpenter Road. It's owned by the city of Lacey, but as the county has agreements with Tenino and Yelm, we also have an interlocal agreement with the city of Lacey to perform their bridge inspections, which, believe it or not, Lacey only has 1 bridge in the entire city. All costs associated with the inspection of the Carpenter Road would be reimbursed by the city of Lacey. The current WashDOT agreement expires March 5th, and this new contract would replace that agreement for a period of 10 years. The estimated cost to perform the work is $22,000, which will cover the bridge inspections scheduled for 2024 and 2029 because these are on a 5-year cycle. Any questions?
Commissioners, questions for Matt? Is there anything like an underwater drone? You go and,
I'm
seems like
sure
that's
there-
what they would be using on something like that.
I'm sure there is, and it sounds really fun. Whether or not we could justify it, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Next up is item 3H, treasure item. We have Treasurer Gavin, I think, behind me. Come on
So
up.
this item is for the sale of one of the county's tax title properties, and our treasurer, Jeff Gavin, is here to describe this property to you.
Might be worth describing tax title just briefly since we have new commissioners. I certainly had no idea what it meant when I joined the board.
It's very confusing, but I do want to comment on Lacey's first bridge. We were very, very proud to actually finally obtain a bridge in 2014. So, background on tax title property. Every property owner is obligated to pay the property taxes. Property taxes attached to the property, not to the person, which is why if you go delinquent on your property taxes, we don't report you to the credit agencies. If property taxes remain delinquent for 3 years, then treasurer starts a foreclosure action to prepare to sell these properties at sale. And I will tell you, we were very, very good at not having very many go to sale at all. So on auction day, which is the Monday after New Year's every
By not
year-
going to sell, you're saying you work with the property owner to get them up to,
Exactly. We send them resources, we look for resources for them, we do everything we can to try and get those property taxes paid. I think, so Eric has been there 20 years, and I think he's taken 2 owner-occupied residences to sale in that time. Yeah, it just doesn't happen. Almost all of them are bare land or commercial. So anyway, auction day arrives, and we do our auctions electronically, so it's broadcast nationwide. If a property does not receive any bids, and the minimum bids for all these properties is the taxes that are owed and the fees associated with doing the collection, and then the interest and penalties that have been applied over time. If a property receives 0 bids, then it becomes, we throw it up again the next week and say, hey, you know, we didn't get any bids on this, please try to, you know, have a look at it. If at that point it doesn't receive any bids, it becomes tax title. So it gets put into the county's name as tax title, but the county does not own the property. The county acts as a trustee for all of the tax districts to hold that property. And there is a responsibility. There isn't always resources, but there is a responsibility to try and get these back on the tax roll so they're generating money for the tax districts. And in fact, when they sell, whatever the sale price is, the proceeds get distributed to all of the tax districts, just like your property tax payment to us does. So the county doesn't even get all that money. They just get their 10 cents or whatever it is now.
Does it ever become the case that the money owed is more than the property's worth?
No, because as soon as it goes to auction, all the interest and penalties and everything stops accruing. And so, but efforts to sell it will continue, and we can add those costs in when they're known into the minimum sale price. After a year of it being tax title, the minimum sale price on the property is the taxes owed. So it doesn't even, we don't even have to collect the fees and stuff, but we do. So this particular property has been tax title since 1958. It's located in the Rochester area. It is most likely not practical to build on because it's not big enough to get both a well and a septic on the property along with a residence. So whoever buys it, if they choose to want to develop it in the future, they're gonna have to go through the expense of figuring out how to get water or sewer. Well, not sewer, but water or septic. The taxes owing on this, I think we're $2.70 or something like that. So, I mean, this is old. So we brought it up for private negotiation, which I'm more than willing to educate any of you on what that involves. But then it turned out there were multiple individuals that had a desire to try and buy this property. So now what I'm doing is bringing it forward to you to ask you to allow me to take it to auction. So we'll put it in public auction probably sometime in February.
How big is it? That was my question.
Oh, man, it's 0.12. I think it's 50 by 100 or 60 by 100. So, you know, from a septic, if you put in a septic and drain field, you gotta have, first of all, adequate drain field for your septic tank, plus 125% more area for reserve, and you have to have 100-foot separation between your water supply and the septic. So it's just, on a 60 by 100 lot, it's just not gonna be very practical to try and build on it.
Who's running it? But if they did acquire a water availability from a neighboring property, then it becomes possible. As long as the well's not within that 100-foot radius.
So I'm not a septic engineer, so I don't know if there's even room on this property, if you were to site a house on there, if there's enough room on this property for the drain field plus reserve drain field.
I don't know the answer.
I don't know, because I'm not an engineer on that.
I just
But
hate
there's
to make a
also-
statement to the public that it would not be, and then pretty soon there's a house shows up there. I know of cases where that's happened, so.
I mean, people have cured property defects over time, but that costs money. And that's one of the reasons why this property probably received no values. It's just the impracticality of spending the money. And, you know, there's implications if you do obtain water from a neighbor. There's legal implications that fall onto the neighbor at that point for making sure that the water that's coming to you is actually healthy water. And so most people, most neighbors are not real willing to do that.
So when you get these I mean, I know this is old, but when you get these properties, you put them up to auction and that's how it works. And then if you want to do a private sale, you come to us for its approval. But since you're asking to go to auction on this, like, does your right to go to auction expire at some point? Like, why do we have to approve this? Why wouldn't you just be able to go to auction anytime?
So once the property becomes tax title, within that first year, I can take it back to auction at any point. Once that year expires, then it's firmly entrenched as tax title.
Okay.
And so it requires a board action to allow me to sell it, either through private negotiation or
You've only
auction.
got a year to do what you
Right.
need to do. That's probably some kind of law.
Statute, yeah.
Is there any chance we might be able to give you like broad authority, any property that's been in tax title more than 5 years, say? I mean, this one's been in since 58 or something like
Right.
that. You know, that you would automatically have that authority. I don't know why we, you know, that'd be a legal question probably. Where's counsel? We wouldn't get that today anyway, would we?
So we did work on, county code. We've got the same county code that allows Jeff to do certain things. And we did work with the attorneys at the time we developed that code. We can check again to see if the board's able to delegate more, but by state law, the board is responsible for county property and the disposition of any real estate. So I don't know that you can delegate that.
No, but
Even though we don't own this, as Jeff always says,
We
don't own these title properties.
we hold it in trust,
Trust,
if
right.
you will, but it's still property that the county has jurisdiction over.
Yeah, and you know, that's where what I've said is that we have no ownership rights on this property, but we have all of the obligation. If somebody calls us and says, hey, there's a danger tree, or, you know, stormwater runoff from your property is flooding my property every year. So we've got a lot of liability with no benefits. But I will talk to my attorney. I'm sure Robin will talk to your attorney, and we'll see.
I mean, of all the ones you brought, this is the only one that you've asked us to go to auction on, so like,
Third,
oh, is it?
yeah, third one since I've been in office since 2017.
Yeah, so a couple of those might have been before me, but I don't remember having voted on one to go to auction. So I guess my point is, giving you that latitude wouldn't necessarily help us that much, unless we were letting you do this private sales as well.
Commissioner Fournier?
I guess you said we have no ownership rights, but my question was, I don't know the property, I haven't seen it, but like, there's no value to the county with the property, there's no like, no value to create like public space for river access, or, you know, a little pocket park out in the middle of Rochester or something, is that?
No.
No.
I mean, it's, this one's on 180th Avenue. There's no water lines to the property. There's no septic there. In all of these properties that are tax title, we've got about 176 or 177 on the list right now. We're trying to get them back on the tax rolls. If a local jurisdiction wants it, we offer it to them within that first year.
Rochester doesn't have a jurisdiction though.
What's that?
They don't have our jurisdiction. Rochester is not incorporated.
No. So it would have been offered to the county.
So we could certainly, we've got a map. We had a map a few years ago of these. We could update that and
I'd love to look at
bring
it,
it.
I love
and
maps.
Show you where they're spread across the county. They're tiny little parcels usually. One's like in the bottom of a lake.
Yeah, there's a couple of them in the
It's,
bottom of a lake. A lot of them are
yeah.
20-foot wide strips. And a lot of those are leftovers when somebody subdivides property and they don't quite get the legal description right, and it leaves this 20-foot strip.
Hutch used to call those snake farms and.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And so then somebody quits paying the taxes on it, because what am I gonna do at 20 feet? And
It's just, it's an oddity of the
Yes.
county. Until there's, someone identifies dangerous trees, then it
And
gets
then-
expensive.
I
yeah,
think there was, what year was it that it was constant dangerous trees? It was,
2 or
it
3
happened
years
once
ago.
and then it was just, I think it was
3 or 4 of
3 or 4 came down. It was
$42,000
just like, oh
for
my gosh.
trees.
yeah. You know, but we had one that I sold a couple of years ago, and I heard from this gentleman. It was his mom's property, and I think it was a 50-foot strip alongside her lot. And she knew it was tax title, and she fenced it and made it part of her yard anyway. Well, then she got into a dispute with the neighbor, and it was getting really, really nasty. And so he wanted to make things right before the neighbor caused a stink about her fencing, putting her fence around this property. So we get those calls once in a while too.
So yeah, we'll, next year we'll fit this in to show you more.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, any additional questions? Okay. Moving on to department items. Thank you. And then item 4A is approval of the voucher list for the week of November 6th.
Yes, this voucher list, when it was reviewed, there is one item on it on page 28 that says NOC monitor for atrium. So it was placed on the department items. However, you may have noticed Sherry pop in earlier this morning. This isn't actually for the atrium. It's not tenant improvements to the atrium. This is a monitor and installation of the monitor that is for the network operations center. This is just equipment needs of IT. It's not particular to the atrium. So I'm asking that this item be moved to consent if you should approve.
Thank you. Are you okay?
Good with you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to central services, item 5A, extension for janitorial services with CLX.
This is an extension of our janitorial contract, and Jason is here to tell you more about it.
Good morning, Commissioners. So this is asking for a 2-year extension of our current custodial contract. The original contract was off of the DES master contract, where they negotiate with vendors to get us the best pricing available for the area. This does include an increase of about $17,000 per year due to the fact that we've added some buildings during this contract, and also prevailing wage went up. One question I know we do usually get asked is what the cost difference is between if we had these services in-house versus contract. I did the calculations last week with the central service accounting staff, and it's a savings of approximately $600,000 per year by having a vendor do it versus in-house. And I'm here if you have any other questions.
Questions for Jason? Okay. No questions for me, thank you. Moving on to item from the Commissioner's Office, item 6A, 2024 property tax levy certification.
This item is your annual certification of the property tax levy. State law requires that every jurisdiction certify the property tax levy to the assessor. Counties must certify the levy to the assessor no later than December 15th. So this action does that for property tax levies for the general fund, the roads fund, medic one, and conservation futures, and sets the levy shift at $4.7 million and includes the road diversion of $1.5 million.
Thank you. Questions? Go ahead, Commissioner.
And this aligns with everything we did in the budget
Yes,
process, that torture we went through.
yes, it is. All the budget torture.
Item 6B.
So this item, we hope, is actually ready for the board to take an action on next week. I still don't have the final number. We're waiting for the change order from Sierra Cedar to come in. It is promised to us today. The final amount, and I will have two options for the board. The final amount is $500,000 for the change order that the project team believes will get us what we need. It doesn't have everything. We had to make a few compromises, but the items that we are agreeing to delay or let go of are automated process to calculate tax. And there's a workaround for that, and then Sherry could tell you about the other things. At 500,000, it does include the budget module.
It does?
It does, at $500,000. The second option that I will present to the board is what the dollar amount would be if we delayed the budget module. And I don't have a dollar amount for that yet because we are checking on how much it would cost to build the interface with Questica. If we should continue to use Questica for a while, but by next Tuesday morning, I will have that information. It is important that the board take action on this next week. At this point, if we get the project rebooted this month, before the end of this month, then we have a shot at having it go live no later than July 1st, and we'll be working really hard to get it ready by then. If we miss this window and we don't have an opportunity for the board to approve it until next month, then there is no way we would make a July 1 go live date. So I apologize that you know, we've been waiting, and now I'm asking you to take an action right now. But we are very hopeful that we'll have a resolution next week.
Questions? Commissioner Mensah?
I missed a piece there. So we're including the budget module, but then why would we have to bridge to Questica?
So you're gonna have two options. We can pay $500,000 that includes the budget module.
Yeah.
Or there will be a second option that delays the budget module. I don't have a dollar amount for that one, because so basically there's $400,000 for the budget module left in the budget. So we could, off the 500,000, we could take it down to 100,000, but then there's going to be some cost to building an interface with Questica. If that turns out to be $350,000, then there's no sense in not going with the budget module. But if it turns out to cost us, you know, $25,000, then we may want to delay implementation
You're
in the
gonna tell
budget.
us that before next Tuesday's vote?
Yes. Yes, Tuesday we'll have two options for you.
Okay.
I'll have concerns with that second option regardless, just because I don't want to get into the situation where we're piecemealing this. It's been incredibly frustrating and I know you feel that same way. I'm preaching to the choir here. And props to Sherry for you know, just all of her work on this, but if it's 500 and we got it down to that and they're willing to do the budget module, I'm gonna be really advocating for that piece, even though it is quite expensive, but it's taken so long. And I mean, the delays in this, it's affecting every department in one way or another, and
I agree. I am presenting you a financial option because of the pressures on our budget. It is not ideal.
no.
The system itself, turns out, is not ideal, but that's a whole different conversation.
And it's too late to pull the plug now.
It really is.
But
We're this far in.
going from 500 to 200,000, that's not general fund, all right?
We don't have, we haven't identified yet how we're gonna pay for this.
Would it be the 60/40,
Could be,
something like that?
yeah,
And we're stretched thin on ARPA.
yeah. Oh, there's no room in ARPA.
There's gonna be no reversion somewhere from anyone.
Not on the, no, we're already, moving the ARPA money around so that we can afford everything that the board has approved in ARPA.
Can we have a conversation about this tomorrow? If there's, I mean, in terms of if we need to set aside some funding
Yes,
for this, then it needs to go, I feel like, on a list. And if it means that we're gonna have to squeeze in somewhere else, I'd rather have that conversation tomorrow rather than next Tuesday on where we're gonna get this money from.
you may recall that it is on that short list of things that we need the board to address. We already have it on the list.
I didn't think there was a number on, there was like 2 million? I think?
$1 million number on there.
Okay, doke.
Yeah, and again, Sherry has done an amazing job because the initial figure they came out with for the change order was, I believe, 2.7 million. So, and we're now down to 500,000, so that's great work by the negotiators.
Okay, thanks. Community Planning and Economic Development, item 7A, is to set a public hearing for agricultural code update part of CPA-16.
Yes, this item is to set a public hearing for your agricultural code update in January, and Maya is here to tell you more about the update.
Thank you, County Manager Maya Teeple, Senior Planner with Community Planning. So this has long been in review with the County Commissioners. It is a portion of docket item CPA 16, which is the community-driven review of agriculture. And the board has had a couple of recent briefings on this item, the most recent being October 18th. At that briefing, we did receive direction from the board to move forward this proposal as well as the maps to a public hearing in the new year. However, we have had some staffing shortage in IT that is delaying the production of the maps. So we're moving forward with the code update for public hearing, and the county commissioners will have an option to take an action on the code following that public hearing. If they wish, the maps will have a separate public hearing at a future date.
Thank you. Questions?
Is there a reason to do that? Separate them out rather than just wait? We're not on a timeline on this.
We did receive some comment from the community that they would like to see the code updates move forward, and the board does have the opportunity to take an action on it. So in an effort to be responsive to the community feedback that we got at some of the recent board meetings, that's why we're scheduling this public hearing.
Go ahead, sir.
Although we haven't came to a conclusion on what constitutes certain types of soils, right? I mean, we still have conflicts in there on sandy soil versus stony soil or something like that. We never did get that solved. So what is the hurry? Yeah, the public might want to get it done or move it along, but we want to get it done too, but we want to get it done right.
You're absolutely right, Commissioner Edwards. That will not be part of this public hearing. That is continuing review. We still need to do the map work behind all of that. So the board likely won't see that item until later in the spring, potentially between March and May. Those maps and the soils and the information related to that will come back to you.
So what is included in the code changes that we will be hearing public comment on?
The code changes are primarily clarifying code changes. There are some new definitions added, and there's a little bit of an expanded list of agricultural related uses within our long-term agriculture zone. It also includes an update and a just cleanup of our agritourism overlay district code. And so that has long been kind of a ticket item with the community and also the Agriculture Advisory Committee. And so that is part of this code update as well. So mostly cleanup. There's a little bit of expanding uses for agricultural operators that fall on those existing zoned lands.
And you think this needs to be done at this point? I still don't understand the hurry. But Josh is gonna explain it to us, I think.
All right. Joshua Cummings, Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. Maya, you did a great job. So the nuts and bolts of this are, it adds flexibility and clarification for when Brett Burris and the Development Services Group is trying to provide permits. So the expanded definitions on what can be done in agricultural area, that allows for folks to do things that they can't do currently, but it makes sense that they should be able to do it in agriculture. And cleaning up those definitions allows for them to be able to interpret the code quicker and more cleanly. All of the controversial items in terms of the mapping and all the other conversations on soil, we wanted to set that aside and do that in the new year so we could have a deeper conversation. But we didn't want to wait on serving the public in the application process.
Okay, makes sense though. For me.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good job, Maya.
Thank you.
Okay, Maya, you're still not off the hook. Item 7B is the adoption of the 2023 Thurston County Comprehensive Plan amendments.
This is the once-a-year amendment to the Thurston County Comprehensive Plan. This item includes many changes to the comp plan, and commissioners have had many briefings. This has gone through the Planning Commission. There have been public hearings on the various sections, and this brings the whole thing together for your once-a-year vote. And Maya can tell you more about what is included in this package.
Maya, go ahead.
Thank you. In this package, and I gave a pretty extensive update on November 28th about all the details, but just to summarize that one more time, we're doing a repeal and replace of the Olympia Joint Plan, a repeal and replace of our Grand Mound Sub-Area Plan, and some associated code changes to incorporate Grand Mound design guidelines within our Thurston County Code. One site-specific land use and zoning request in the rural county for citizen property, the Pogue property, a repeal and replacement of our Yelm Joint Plan, a repeal and replacement of our Lacey Joint Plan, and as part of the Lacey Joint Plan, there are several items included in that, including a UGA expansion, a couple of citizen-initiated zoning requests, a consolidation of 2 low-density zones, and code amendments that are associated with that low density zoning consolidation. So that's the quick summary, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions that the commissioners may have.
Any questions? Okay. Moving on to item 7C is the adoption of Shoreline Master Program update.
So this item is exactly as stated. It's an update of our Shoreline Master Program. The county has been working on this for many years, and we believe that this item is ready for the board's action to approve. And then Andrew can tell you about the details of it, the changes in the plan.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Andrew DeFobis, Senior Planner with Thurston County Community Planning. As the interim county manager indicated, the county has been working on its Shoreline Master Program update for some time. This is the document that regulates development and redevelopment along the county's shorelines. It's currently docketed as item A6 on the board's development code docket. The SMP is a requirement under state law under the Shoreline Management Act, and it generally applies to Puget Sound, to large lakes and streams, and associated critical areas and the shorelines along those areas. The update includes periodic and comprehensive changes required by state law, and updates, and within the document has updates to map shoreline jurisdiction, environment designations, and the policies and regulations for shoreline areas. It streamlines the review for areas that include both critical areas and shorelines, and introduces some new flexibility for landowners in certain situations. The board held a public hearing on the update on May 16th and has had 9 subsequent work sessions to address public comment. And the draft that's before the board for consideration reflects the board's feedback from those public comments. Looking ahead, once the initial adoption is complete, the SMP update will go to the Department of Ecology, and they will do their public review process. The draft will eventually return back to the county with a list of recommended and required changes. The board at that time will work with staff to address those changes and ultimately adopt a final SMP, which will take effect upon final approval by Ecology. Still quite a bit of time to get to that stage, but I just wanted to let everyone know what the next steps would be. I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions?
Comment. I'm just really excited about this. Been working on it for a long time. I feel like there's a lot of good stuff in here that balances a lot of different competing interests. I like to tell the story that I have a piece of campaign literature from 2014 from my predecessor, 2 commissioners back, who said if reelected, she would prioritize completing the long overdue Shoreline Master Program. And 9 years later, here we are actually fulfilling that. So I'm very excited to see this go into ecology.
When is this due again? So when do we start this process again?
Oh, for the next?
Yeah, for the next one.
2030. 2030. So we'll get a bit of a breather.
I don't know, it sounds like we better start working on
We
it.
better start working on it now.
And Andrew, is the board still going to receive the draft likely tomorrow, the final draft?
Yes. Yeah, there have been some, the changes made by the board were not significant in terms of actual alteration to the document. So it'll look fairly familiar to what they received ahead of the public hearing and what the new commissioners received as they came on board. But yes, the next full draft with everything should be online and should go to the commissioners tomorrow sometime.
Thank you, because I know that we have one last briefing scheduled for Monday at
Yes.
9 a.m. And then there's we're trying to, I think, do a little bit of a scheduling dance with some other potential conflicts. So just want to make sure the board has plenty of time to review the final draft prior to Tuesday.
Okay.
Were the maps going to be included tomorrow?
Yes, the map, the updated map will be included, and that'll be, it'll be print within the document version, and then there will be a version posted online that's larger, and you can blow it up and look at it.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Okay, next is from District Court, item 8A, and District Court Substance Monitoring Program Contract Renewal.
Yes, Frankie's unable to be with us this morning and asked that I present this contract extension to you. This is an extension for District Court for the SCRAM program. The board has approved this program's funding in next year's budget from ARPA funds. And it is a 1-year extension with the Friendship Diversion Services. This program is a benefit to the county because it provides the court an alternative to having someone sit in our jail.
It's a benefit to the community as well. And I want to give props to, District Court as well as the board, because this was one of the programs that we took a chance on with ARPA funds to be able to fund this program and see that there was a benefit to the community. And We've heard from district court, we've heard from public defense on really on the benefit it really has, not only for the county, but as well as for those members appearing in front of the court who now don't have to pay for that and for these services, so.
Just to be perfectly clear, the judge might let somebody out if they could be monitored, and there was a huge group of people that just couldn't pay for that. It was on the back of the defendant. This basically plugs that gap and allows that to be available to everyone. So if a judge says, I could release this person if I had appropriate monitoring, now it's anyone can access that, not just people with financial means. So it has reduced jail population, it has enhanced, I think a lot of, that person benefits, maybe they keep their job, maybe they keep their kids. And we're gonna try to, we don't know how we're gonna fund this beyond next year, but we wanna keep this going while we have the ARPA resources available. We'll have to figure it out next year, I guess.
I have an idea. Okay. Moving on to emergency services. And maybe Frankie can, or next, he can talk a little bit about the numbers of, I know he sent me numbers before on basically just, but maybe as he's presenting this item next week, he can.
People were.
Oh, yeah, like, I mean, those are the people who are not, we heard from the sheriff yesterday that, that there's still space in the jail, and I think this is also a contributing factor if, as well, so.
Sure, I'm happy to ask him to do that.
Okay, emergency services, item 9A is medic unit procurement.
Yes, this is the replacement of 3 paramedic vehicles. This is through a cooperative purchasing agreement. And Ben can tell you more about the purchase.
Absolutely. So we're leveraging the same contract that we did on the previous order. I'll remind you that we do have to come in front of you multiple years in advance for the rotation through medic units and procurement. The last time I approached you, which was about a year ago this time, for procurement of 5 medic units, we had about a 16 to 18 month lead time. If you notice the date of delivery on this quote, they're now out to 24 months. And so delivery is supposed to be Christmas of 25. With that, in terms of the rotation that we're going through moving forward, you'll remember that the first 5 were for the replacement. We have 7 medic units in our deployment countywide. 5 of those medic units will be replaced hopefully in 2024. We're looking for the last 2, so to get to 7, to be replaced in 2025, as well as the deployment of an 8th medic unit in 2025. This goes through an identical process as through the procurement as previously done. The only difference is the updated contract through HDAC. They transitioned from contract AM 1020 to AM 1023, but same parameters. Lastly, I'll just point out very quickly, which ties into the next agenda item, that you'll notice that the medic units, if you divide by 3, come out about $60,000 less than you would expect on the last one, but that's also tied to the next agenda item, and I'll speak to that a little bit more after that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, let's go to the next item, which is procurement of Stryker, gurneys, and load systems and medic units arriving in 2025.
So what was actually pulled out of this quote by a last minute offer from Stryker is that in the previous quotes for the first 5, we incorporated the load system and the gurneys in the build for those units. As of this quote and this procurement that we had just discussed for those medic units, we pulled out those Stryker load systems and gurneys because we were approached by Stryker actually very late November with an offer that actually was about a $33,000 or about $11,000 per unit per system discount beyond what Sourcewell contract pricing actually authorized. The way the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing agreement works is that ultimately they cannot exceed the prices in Sourcewell, but they can offer below those Sourcewell contract prices. When we went below those prices, we actually, just so you're aware, based on the federal fiscal year, Stryker increases their prices every October by about 5 to 8%. They actually went below the pricing increase in October of 2023. So we're getting a fairly comprehensive deal on this to buy them actually early and store them for about 18 months until delivery. It gives us the $33,000 discount off the Sourcewell pricing, but we also avoid a 2024 and 2025 5 to 8% increase, which is an additional saving of about $30,000 to Thurston County residents.
Nice.
So an aggregate savings of, by the time this is all said and done, of about $60,000.
Questions?
What did EMS, the council, say about that?
EMS council unanimously approved, I missed it, unanimously approved the currently approved preliminary budget that's been put in front of the Board of County Commissioners, and we'll have the hearing this afternoon.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Storage an issue?
At this point in time, we've been able to identify a potential storage area. We'll look for a more efficient one, but we're able to store this, or else we wouldn't present this to you.
It's not a large thing to store.
No, it's roughly, we had calculated about a 20 by 20 square foot area that we would need, so.
Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks.
Okay, Public Health and Social Services, item 10A, interlocal agreement with the City of Olympia for Quinn Street Village operations.
The Board of County Commissioners has approved $600,000 in the ARPA budget to contribute to the M&O costs of the Quinn Street Village Tiny Home Shelters through an interlocal agreement with the City of Olympia. The agreement is now written and ready for the board's approval, and Tom can tell you more about it.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Webster with Public Health and Social Services. Yeah. So this is, we've drafted the interlocal agreement. It's pretty straightforward of reimbursing City of Olympia for up to $600,000. It is a one-year agreement between January 1 of 2024 and December 31st of 2024 to support the operations of Quinn Street Village. City of Olympia has obtained additional funding from the Department of Commerce under the Right-of-Way Initiative to also support operations for Quinn Street Village going forward as well. So, but happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any questions?
How long will this provide M&O money for? Just 1 year?
Yeah, so this is just 1 year. The total cost is around 1.5 million. So this is just a portion. City of Olympia is covering about a third. And then in future years, there'll be a request to the Regional Housing Council for funding for about a third of the costs. The intent is for the village to be in existence for another 2 to 3 years before the site is turned into permanent housing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, moving on to Public Works. Item 11A is interagency services agreement with Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife for stormwater utility improvements.
This item is, as stated, an agreement with the state of Washington, and I'm gonna ask Matt to go ahead and tell you more.
And
Actually, Tim, I'm sorry.
It's
You-
us. We
you
come,
guys
we
come
came
up
early.
and there you
You're-
are.
Sorry, Robin.
Totally.
I totally almost just started talking about road transfers.
Go ahead, Tim.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a opportunity for the county stormwater utility and for the residents of Boston Harbor to take advantage of a construction project that is in process and being managed by the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife in the Boston Harbor area. They are doing some work to update a ramp and some access that they are charged with managing out there. While the project is open, we saw an opportunity to, while the road and adjacent areas are open, replace some aging stormwater infrastructure that was approaching the end of its useful life. So we thought it would be a good opportunity to partner with them, basically pay their contractor to replace this infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure, think pipes and catch basins, while it's open, so that we don't then have to break the road back open in 3 or 4 years. So this is the interagency services agreement, I apologize, to be able to transfer funding out of our storm and surface water utility to Fish and Wildlife to get that work done.
Thank you. Questions? Have we heard from the Boston Harbor community in regards to this?
The Boston Harbor community has been made aware of this, I believe, at SWAB meetings. And I say I believe because our senior civil engineer, Nate Ensley, was our contact with SWAB for Public Works. He was very good about keeping SWAB abreast of all of these projects. So I am relatively sure that they have been engaged through SWAB.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Oh. Okay. Thought you had a question. Okay,
No,
item,
sorry.
Item 11B, interlocal agreements with the cities of Aberdeen, Chehalis, and Olympia, Grace Harbor County, Intercity Transit, and the Olympia School District for the sale of anti-icing materials for road operations.
So this item is to most likely take advantage of the power of bulk purchasing and creates an interlocal agreement between the county and these jurisdictions for maintaining the roads. This item is still not Matt. It's Mike, and he is on the screen and can provide additional information.
Mike, go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, this agreement is largely for anti-icing materials, brine, salt, sand, that we have the ability to produce and, when available, would sell to these other entities at our cost. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions? Okay. Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Okay, item 11C is interlocal agreement with Confederate Tribes of the Chehalis Reservation regarding the transfer of portions of county roads.
This item is following up on many years of negotiation with the Chehalis tribe to transfer sections of county roads to the tribe. You held a public hearing, and this one is Matt, to talk to you about the road transfer.
Sorry, couldn't wait to get here. So in addition to what the interim county manager just mentioned, the proposed transfer is the result of many conversations with the Chehalis tribe regarding the maintenance service level for the roads that provide direct access to the Chehalis reservation. And the Chehalis tribe requested that they be able to maintain these roads. During the public comment that we received last Tuesday, we received a total of 13 comments, 7 for and 6 opposed. We did receive an additional comment after pertaining to who will be responsible for maintaining the roads. Simply answered, the Chehalis tribe will be responsible for doing that. There have been a few questions raised during the public comment period that I'd like to address. The Chehalis tribe currently maintains 6 miles of road in the area and has done so since 2010, when the roads were transferred to the Chehalis tribe from Grace Harbor County. The Chehalis tribe is requesting this transfer because they can respond to maintenance concerns or other events quicker than Public Works can. These roads are just a small part of the more than 1,000 miles owned and maintained by Thurston County, and they have to compete for maintenance priorities. The proposed draft agreement states that the tribe will quitclaim its right-of-way interest to the Chehalis tribe and that they are only to be used for transportation purposes. The county would also transfer the ownership of the roadways. These roadways are to be maintained in their current condition or better. If this condition is not met, then the roads would be quitclaimed back to the county. Any disagreements would be resolved in federal court, specifically, I'm gonna get it right this time, the U.S. District Court for Western District of Washington.
Thank you. We also have Harry and Amy present from the tribe here as well. And Harry is their attorney, I believe, and then Amy is their community planning and economic development and director. So there's questions for them. They're also present. So are there any questions following the public hearing? Commissioner Edwards.
Did legal say that there's any kind of a problem on this ingress, egress business of one of the folks testifying said they weren't able to get onto the road or haul logs or so? Do we face any liability by doing this from citizens that might run into a problem?
No, this agreement was reviewed multiple times by legal. And as I've mentioned a couple times now, is that we're simply transferring our property or our right-of-way rights. And then we'd also be transferring the ownership of the roads to the tribe as well. But as far as like the ability for the public that are currently accessing the roads now, that would not change.
Commissioner Fournier, go ahead.
You said that the roads have to be maintained in the current condition. Is there any like language that says like what the road standards are that are being adopted?
Yeah, so there's multiple things. Like when it comes to traffic safety, they obviously have to follow the federal requirements of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. When they were to upgrade any of the roads, they would have to follow the guidelines in the Washington State Department of Transportation Manual or the AASHTO Green Book, which is the federal requirements. As far as documenting the existing conditions, all of our roads have been filmed. All the pavement ratings have been documented. So we would have a baseline if that's what you're asking to go back to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Spencer and then Commissioner.
Well, I just, yeah, it was important that this has been multiply reviewed by legal back years ago, and then again by probably a different set of lawyers now, and that's all. What's really gives me a good sense of confidence here is that we have a model. We have the Grays Harbor model. You know, we don't have to guess about whether this will work or can work. It is working, and I think it's a win-win, really. I mean, I know folks are always nervous about change, but I guarantee the level of service, there's going to be improvement from everyone involved, and Thurston County benefits as well. So, there were some confusing claims and issues raised at the public hearing, but they were of a legal nature, and I know that this has gone through multiple levels of review. So, I'm really setting those aside, and from a practical standpoint, this makes tons of sense to me.
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
In this case, when my old-fashioned request that legal be here to advise us once in a while, they've had years to review this particular situation. I wonder, would it be possible that legal could come and say, yes, we have reviewed this on the public record, and we don't see that there's any problems with moving forward with this, and could answer a simple question. Do you anticipate any liability issues if something goes awry that the county might incur? So is there any reason we couldn't after years of study, we could find out if a lawyer couldn't come and give us some legal advice.
You can certainly ask them, Commissioner.
I don't think they'll say that there's no liability, because I think there's liability in any action that the county takes. I mean, anybody can sue at any time or raise claims, so I don't know, Commissioner Edwards, if they would make that statement, but,
Well, then I'm not asking for
I'm,
anything special.
we can ask them to attend and confirm that they have reviewed this item and that it is legal to proceed. As I shared last time, I received legal advice from the attorneys that said that this is legal and you are able to legally proceed.
And the interlocal agreement is
Signed
attested
off.
to,
Yeah.
as approved as to form by the prosecuting attorney's office.
That's right. All the attorneys sign off on all your actions and resolutions.
And those are all public documents that are available to anybody.
Absolutely.
These were, so when we're advertising the public hearing, we posted this on our website. We also put notice in both the Chronicle newspapers and the Lincoln newspapers on where they could find those posted documents. We had signs posted in the field stating where they could post those documents. Public Works really did about as much outreach on this topic as we possibly could. We recognize it. That's an important issue.
Seeing any additional questions? Okay, thank you.
So just to confirm, next steps, agenda setting on the 12th?
Yes.
And no further information? Thank you.
So then, after that, we'll have our standing items, and then we do have two public hearings at 3:30. The first one, item A from the Commissioner's Office, is ordinance amending chapter 2.02 of Thurston County Code.
Yes, Commissioners, I had shared with you a revision of the Thurston County Meeting Code that had been prepared by Elizabeth, and she came and spoke with you about these changes. Was it just last week? These are technical to bring us into accordance with state law, and it allows the board more flexibility when it comes to meetings in the community. So this is the public hearing on this topic, and it has been properly noticed, and we hope that we don't anticipate much turnout over this, and that the board could take action at this time.
Questions? Okay. Item B from the Auditor's Office is precinct boundary changes and County Commissioner District legal description.
Yes, this item, the board has reviewed with the auditor. It is moving forward to a public hearing. This is the adjustment of boundary lines on precincts to conform with state laws. And I believe they said that 17 voters would be affected by this change.
And they do need this done as soon as possible because they have a special election that will be taking place in February, so they need to have the these adjustments done before then. There is a timing element to this. Okay, and then that will conclude our agenda for December 12th.
I would just mention that December 12th is the last meeting of the year. So even though we don't know of any additional items, save one that we'll talk about this morning, you may see items walked on if anything comes forward that's time sensitive, because our next meeting won't be until January 9th.
Thank you. Next is the review of the Board of Health draft agenda for our meeting of December 12th, 2023. I'll pass it to the Chair of the Board of Health.
Take a restroom break then.
Yep. 10:55, let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break.
Okay, we're back. Thurston County Board of County Commissioners. This is our agenda setting work session, and we're picking up with item 3, which is a review of the Board of Health draft agenda for next Tuesday's meeting, December 12th. That meeting will be called to order at 4:30. We will review the agenda and have an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. We will have sort of a bifurcated proceeding in a sense, because we're gonna be taking up at the end of the meeting, interview process for the new community members of the Board of Health. But we'll start out with kind of our regular business meeting items. Item 3 is a proclamation regarding Impaired Driving Prevention Month. I see Erin.
Morning.
Berkeley, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Erin.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. Erin Berkeley, Disease Control and Prevention Division Director. We will have Tara Teslana, who is the Target Zero Program Manager, joining us for this proclamation.
Okay. Any questions from Board of Health members on this? Okay, very good. The next will be a presentation. The subject is Heat Plan Initiative Presentation. Jennifer Freiheit, Department Assistant Director. Jen, what should we expect from the heat presentation?
Hi, thank you. Yes, Jennifer Freiheit, Assistant Director of PHSS. And so this is Dr. Gordon Wheat. He has an extreme passion about heat-related emergencies, climate change, etc. He is coming to present on a piece of what is a part of the hazard mitigation plan. So the hazard mitigation plan will be presented to you at the end of January, beginning of February, as I understand. It is now in review with the state, and then emergency management will send it off to FEMA. But Dr. Wheat is very interested in talking about Initiative 32. There are over 50 initiatives in that hazard mitigation plan. He's interested in talking about just one piece of that, to sort of let you know the importance of heat mitigation plan. And so he will be coming forward, and it shouldn't be any ask or request or not a request for funding or a request for action. It's basically just him talking about his passion for this particular project.
Questions from Board of Health members? Okay. Next, we will have a discussion about Board of Health meeting time. This, for the new Board of Health members, is something that came because, so one of the seats on our Board of Health is a rotating seat for a municipal representative. Right now, it's the City of Lacey and Robin Vasquez, Councilmember Vasquez. The City of Lacey is moving council meetings from Thursday to Tuesday. And Olympia, I think, already has Tuesday and a couple of the others, but
Pretty much everybody.
yeah, pretty much everybody now. So we were just trying to figure out how to juggle, you know, we've gone through a discussion. When we set the original meeting time, we kind of rejected every other possible time of meeting other than keeping it on the Tuesday after the Board of County Commissioners meeting. But I think the suggestion may be to move it forward a little bit so that it's more likely that we'll be able to finish and get the council member, whoever that is, whether it's Councilmember Vasquez or
Earlier in
somebody
the
else.
day, you're saying?
Well, moving it to like 3:45 or 4 rather
But
than
on
4:30 on
Tuesdays.
Tuesday. Kind of hedging, splitting the difference there. We are typically done with, and then trying to not schedule public hearings for the Board of County Commissioners on the quote-unquote Board of Health Tuesday, which is the second Tuesday of each month. That may not always be possible, but that would be the preference, is to avoid, so that we can get the Board of County, let's say it's 3:45, get the Board of County, that gives us an hour and 45 minutes to get board business done. That's usually enough time, unless we get an unusual number of public commenters. And then we would start Board of Health at 3:45. We're bringing in, you know, considering that other boards of health members besides us have day jobs or our community volunteers, and then we've got council members. We're trying to just kind of be respectful of everyone's time, making sure they're not waiting around, but at the same time, trying to fit everything in. So anyway,
But then, like a remote is an option for community members and stuff like that.
for everybody, yeah, hybrid meetings for sure, so that's always an option. So anyway, we need to sort of formalize that and make decisions, because I believe Lacey is moving to their new schedule in January. So this will be our last meeting before that time. So there will be discussion there. Any questions about that? Okay. And then, this is an item that has been, kicked down the, road because of different, well, David can probably explain it, but it's to get a formal appointment of a alternate health officer for times when, our health officer is unavailable. And there's been some issues with getting approval from the state on the language. And David, can you explain and tell us where we're at today?
Yeah, I feel like I feel like this is going to be really the highlight of my year is getting this done since it's taken me literally all year to get here. It's really simple. A couple of years ago, the state moved to a model of having regional medical officers that could support local health jurisdictions. So if our health officer, for example, was ever out of town or incapacitated, we could get help from the state to support us. We need to pass a resolution at the local level to authorize that position to do so. And that's what the resolution here is. It took the state many months to go back and forth over the legalese of the document and the agreement, but we finally got there. So literally sneaking in under the wire here at the end of the year.
Any questions for David on that? No, okay. At that point, we intend to, I have prepared a little statement, I'll go over it with the assistant county manager, but essentially I'm gonna basically make it a statement to the public that the only remaining items relate to the interview process, and in order to ensure fairness to applicants and protect the integrity of that process, we're gonna still have an open public meeting in compliance with the law, but we're gonna stop the live stream and recording of the meeting. And then we are going to go into very short interviews. There were 9 applicants. We have brought forward 7 for interview by the full Board of Health because the law requires that. And we're gonna have, so the proposal is to have, I believe, 4 questions per applicant, about 12 minutes per. We'll just go down the road, ask questions. We will distribute those in advance, so you'll see those, you'll know what they are. The applications, I'm looking to the clerk of the Board of Health. Those will be distributed to, or Dr. Freiheit is also helping us coordinate.
Jimmy has not been involved in this whatsoever.
Okay, so Jen, is this, will the other boards of health, when will they see the preliminary information that we were gonna distribute in terms of questions and applications?
Yep, David, Rob, and Thomasina and Jamie were all received an email this morning with that spreadsheet that we reviewed last week with the applicants and all the information put into one spreadsheet, so they should get that really soon.
Okay, so you'll get to see their answers to the written questionnaires, and then we'll just zip through it, and then we'll have to have, at that point, deliberations, and we're gonna try to make decisions on selecting these new members immediately after. So this could be a lengthy meeting as if we have, 30, 40 minutes of business meeting, interviews, 12 minutes apiece times 7 is an hour and a half of interviewing these candidates. And then discussion, which took us quite a while the first time around, with differences of opinion and a spreadsheet and people voting and stuff. So we will try to get this done.
With the intent of having 3 names to the Board of County Commissioners for your meeting on the 15th, the end of next week, such that those individuals can be part of the Board of Health come January.
3 names for how many positions that are vacant?
3.
3
So
names.
culling down, doing the interviews of 7 individuals, culling that down to your recommended 3 that would go to the Board of County Commissioners.
There's 3 buckets we have to fill. One of our buckets, the person moved away. So we have an empty, and then we have to add the 2 to correspond to you guys coming on, because we can't have more electeds than non-electeds according to the law. So,
And they have to meet certain criteria in some
well,
cases.
we gotta fill that middle bucket because we don't have anyone. And then at that point, we have the latitude under the law to pick, to fill like these 2 buckets or those 2 buckets. We shouldn't pile 3 into 1 bucket, but
Too many buckets.
yeah. So as long as we don't have more than one more than in one bucket than another bucket, then we have the flexibility to match. So we actually have, the way it worked out, we actually have quite a bit of flexibility in terms of who applied and the spots that we have. And certain people qualify for multiple spots, because one of the spots is really a healthcare professional. One is sort of a person who's had an adverse experience working with the system, kind of like a lived experience type of category. And then a third one is like a business or nonprofit or something that connects to public health, but not necessarily, you know, a practitioner or a consumer. So we have quite a range of applicants, and we think, I'm not worried about filling the buckets. It's more just, you know, getting through the process and having the discussion and getting to a decision point. I think will be yeah, Dr. Fry.
Yes, and you will see on the spreadsheet, I basically, the very first column is labeled which category, 1, 2, or 3. So for example, category 2 is the one category you have to fill because we don't have a Board of Health seat for that right now. And there are 4 applicants that fit that category 2, but some of them can also fit category 1 or potentially category 3. So you'll have many, many options, but you'll see that it's sort of color coded and there is categories in the first column for you.
And Jen, I think that one of the things as I was reviewing the draft communication to the Board of Health members is that we probably need to share that information either from our own code, because we mirror what is in state law or what those categories are. So
Sure, I'll send that.
Yeah, so that they have that additional information as background when they're going through the review of the spreadsheet.
Good point. Yeah, the category 2 is the either having lived experience within the public health system. So maybe somebody who has gone through the WIC program or something like that, or also our historically marginalized communities fits into that category too.
Jamie?
Just a clarifying question, only because I haven't had a ton of time to review the email from this morning, but is it already confirmed that all of them are coming in, or do they still need to be contacted?
Nope, they've all been contacted. The last one just reached out to me late last night. So that is why had to confirm all of them before we sent it over.
And everybody's available and intends to participate?
Exactly.
Okay, we were wondering about that, because in the past, we had a couple that couldn't make it, so we were like, let's.
Nope, even just sent them a calendar invite this morning, gave them the whole rundown of the process that we went over, and you'll get the process as well in that email, so.
And will they be in person?
All of them.
All of them in person?
Yes.
It'll be a long day, but it's gonna be exciting, guys. It's a great crowd of applicants, and it's gonna be really, yeah.
As the questioning of candidates moves forward, are the other candidates gonna be in the audience or they're gonna be outside? Oh, okay.
By law, we cannot force them out of the room, but we're gonna ask them as a courtesy to step outside.
And if they're not courteous,
That's not gonna look well.
I wouldn't appoint them.
So one of the tasks I'll take on is actually then, you know, escorting individuals in and out so that we can have that flow.
Okay, any questions on this Board of Health meeting? Madam Chair? You look like you have something to say. Okay, I'll pass the baton back to you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, so moving on to proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions.
Good morning. For proclamations and awards, I don't have any updates outside of what was already discussed. For boards and commissions, included in your packet for review are the standing applications for the Planning Commission. In addition to those standing apps, I received appointment requests for the Board of Equalization and the Pest and Vegetation Management Advisory Committee, as well as a reappointment request for the Pack Mountain Workforce Development Council. I'm still waiting for confirmation from the staff contact if the BOE has an opening, but both the other requests are being recommended for appointment and reappointment as requested. Outside of any questions, that's all I have.
Questions, comments?
So she's saying that they're not entirely sure if the Board of Equalization has a vacancy?
It looks like it. They possibly do based on the old expiration terms that they have online, but I haven't been able to confirm yet for certain.
So then if we didn't know, then it wasn't even probably advertised that there was a vacancy?
We don't typically advertise that for the boards and commissions unless we're recruiting for like a particular position that we have a vacancy per se. Some of them, they all kind of have different rules associated with them. Some of them, a member, if their term expires, they're immediately no longer a member. Some of them, they can still sit in their seat until until they apply for reappointment or another application is received. At that point, they would be expected to either submit their own or that applicant would be taken into consideration. It just kind of depends on which particular board or commission. They're not all universal. They're all different.
But there's no like web page or outreach effort to notify the public of what vacancies exist?
We have a boards
Okay.
and commissions page that has a one-pager that lists the information about each one of them. Some of them are a little bit more in-depth than others. We do have a staff contact available, so if anybody had a particular question about that board or commission, they can reach out to them directly or myself, and I can get them in contact and get them the information as well.
We occasionally advertise through social media, the board makes announcements, they hear us talk about this every week at agenda setting.
Can I ask a question on planning commission? So is it the case that until we reappoint, like, do we not have a planning commission as of December 31st? Until we
Come
make,
December 31st, all the terms expire. So the idea of approving the change in the ordinance earlier in the fall was to be able to have appointments going forward, knowing that we would have a lag for our two new commissioner districts potentially. But yes, if reappointments don't occur next week, then come January 1, we do not have an active planning commission.
That was going to be my request.
just trying to light a fire under the commissioner, since we each get to appoint two. One of them has to live in your district, one can live anywhere in the county, but you have to bring them, I mean, these folks can apply, but you have to nominate them, and then we just, probably approve them. But I just wanted to lay that out because they got a lot of work to do, and I don't want to miss a month of work because we're not, we're not working on that.
Yeah.
I'm working on mine. I don't have either of my, I've got two folks that I want to do, and I haven't gotten them to get their applications in, but I'm hoping within the next few days, I'll have my two appointments ready for the board, hopefully next week.
I'm moving forward with Derek Day for my district. I have to talk with Commissioner Klaus about Kevin. I'm not sure which direction you're gonna head on there. And then just depending on there, then I'll pivot from there. So not sure if you've thought about it yet or know which direction you're gonna be heading in. But I do know for Mr. Day, I will be reappointed. That will be my in-district appointment.
And I'm also more than happy to get
We got one.
information for the applicants as well. If there was one of the new commissioners that maybe had somebody that they were already considering, they might want to meet with both of them so they can at least get in contact with them to meet with them.
I have a planning well, I had somebody that I didn't appoint, but he's been on a long time, and he's now in your district, Scott Nelson. So
That I'm going to talk to.
if you want to, it's up to you. I'm just saying,
No, I am.
I can't appoint him.
Yeah.
I have Joel Hansen,
At large, right?
who's gonna be my at-large.
Okay.
He lives in your district,
Yep.
that's actually, and then I have my eye on a candidate that's in my district, because Jim Simmons has decided who was my in-district, he doesn't wanna continue.
Yeah, and I am speaking to Scott, and then I have another person that's been on the Tenino Planning Commission for a long time that's looking into.
Yeah, you guys get a little grace, because you've got, you're new, you've got so much coming at you. The three of us really need to get on it so that we at least have that core of planning commissioners to move forward into the next year, I think.
Well, I've got Barry as my,
Okay, so you've got one as well.
I've got one. And depending on, I guess, what's available, will I select somebody but if another commissioner selects that person or something, then that person won't be available. I've got a couple options, I just don't know what to say at this
Well, him stealing Joel opened up an opportunity
Yeah,
for me.
well, okay, well, that's the same kind
Yeah.
of thing that I'm up against. I have one in the works, that's Barry. And I'll have a couple others soon. I mean, we don't need them today, do we?
Not
No.
today, but
No.
it'd be nice if we could appoint them before the 15th so that they could meet
yeah.
in January.
Yeah.
So that only gives us another week.
Yeah, I really do want to have this conversation next Tuesday because I just want to make sure that we can have a
quorum.
conversation and move forward, and we can have a quorum. There's still a lot of things that the planning commission is working on, and so.
Is 6 a quorum?
6 would be a quorum.
So I know that the 2 new commissioners are still working on their appointments, but for sitting commissioners, I would like some names
Got it.
next week.
I have one comment to make on that. I feel pretty confident in who I would like to appoint, and I am interested in appointing Kevin if you're open to that. And I have another person in mind as well. I was wondering, for the other person who has not been part of the planning commission yet, I guess for everybody, when should we encourage them to have their applications in? If we're gonna be talking about this next Tuesday, should we have them?
Immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get you a copy of the application if you wanna email it out to me as well.
I'm bugging my people too,
Can you
yeah, like
email
they
that
have
to
to.
me as well?
You're covered with
I
Kevin
better
because
have
he's
one of
already
his too.
applied.
Oh,
But
perfect.
Your new
Okay.
person needs to get that application in, then we can make the appointment next week.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, got work to do. Okay, well, that's good. That clarifies because I didn't know, so thank you for that. Okay.
Well, I think I can settle mine if you've got people you're interested in. And unless you're gonna appoint, because I think Eric Casino, he's the chair now, and he lives, I think, in your district, on Long Lake, is that your district?
Yeah, he
It
said,
says here.
District 5.
Yeah, so, you know, he's not one of the ones that you're gonna appoint. Well, then I'll appoint him as my rover.
Okay.
And then that settles it for that.
you've got Barry and Eric. and
Yeah,
you've
Barry,
got
is
Derek
that
and
okay? I
somebody.
mean, I don't wanna
Yeah,
be stealing
no.
somebody from
Somebody.
you.
No, I have someone else in mind.
And
Good
she's
enough.
got,
Okay.
2 people lined up, so
Okay,
we'll be
well
all right
then-
if we just get those up, get your folks,
Okay,
get
well,
their
there's 2.
applications in. You're covered, cause your
You're
people
covered,
applied.
Yeah, and my people have already got applications in, so don't send me an application. I was just trying to get out of the paperwork,
You're good.
that's all I was trying to do.
Okay, and then, so Pack Mountain for Michael Cade, there's a recommendation for reappointment. Are we ready to move forward on that next week? Okay, so we'll move forward on that one. The pest and vegetation management, it's Laura, I'm not gonna, I'll butcher her name.
I think it's Needling.
Needling? Okay.
The G, the D, and the N are silent. I'm just messing with you. That is a hard one, that's a hard one to
I was like,
read.
do not, I'm already struggling, like, okay, I'm not, one second, I'm like trying to see, does she fit into, there's an,
They recruited her, if I recall correctly, for the, because the position that was vacated was, an environmental interest, and she, I believe, without pulling it up real quick, she had a background in that.
okay, so that's the position she's trying as the environmental interest. So if commissioners will look at that application and we can do an appointment on that next week.
Which
Next
one are
week
you
if-
talking about?
The pest and vegetation management, Lori.
Okay.
So just for review, just so commissioners can have it. Okay. Next is, there's no further questions or comments on boards and commissions? You wanna-
Yeah,
Okay.
one question here. What did we decide on the Board of Equalization? Ruth doesn't know, or Ruth
No, I
isn't
haven't had a
here?
chance to touch base with Ruth. She's been busy with, some hearings, which is part of why she wasn't here this morning. So, I'll reach out to her again. She was available by email briefly there this morning, but, I will verify with her if there is an opening on that, for you guys for next
I mean, I see we do have one application, so, okay.
So, Jamie will verify on that next week and we can have a conversation with that, okay? So next PIO check-in.
Morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. Had no updates this morning.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to their legislative check-in. There was a legislative breakfast this morning.
Wildly successful. right, Commissioner Fournier? That was good.
It was good.
We had, all three members of the 22 and two of the members of the 35.
Okay.
And we had a lot of, the auditor wasn't there, but we had the other electeds all got a chance to pipe in with their particular issues, prosecutor, assessor, treasurer, sheriff. And they had interesting, I think, elements. And then
Clerk.
the clerk was not there.
I was, okay.
I walked through the list of agenda items. There weren't really any questions about them. I was sort of surprised. We thanked Representative Griffey and Couture for helping us with the, least restrictive alternative thing. And the prosecutor piped in and supported us on that. He wants to be part of that process and be named in the new law, and that I think is part of the law that Griffey and Couture have come up with. And they said they're working that issue. Representative Bateman is apparently willing to help us with the Board of Health bill to try to, so we don't have to have all 5 commissioners on the Board of Health. See where that goes. There weren't really any questions about anything else. So it was kind of low key. Courts were there. It's a big group. I didn't remember that from a few years ago, having all the electeds and department directors and program managers. So we had quite a crew.
That huge room was nice.
Yeah. HR room.
Yeah, okay. I want to thank staff for all their work on this. A lot of hard work went into the planning and just the setup and breakdown of all of it. So just thank you to all of you for your hard work on that. Okay, and thank you, Commissioner Menser and Fournier, for getting up early and representing us there. Okay, next is briefing, public hearing decisions pending. The first item is salary commission recommendations.
Yes, Commissioner, as you discussed at your planning session, the item from the recommendation from the Salary Commission is for the board to set the salary amounts for the assessor, the clerk, the coroner, and the treasurer. The recommended amount is $11,630 per month, which I believe is a 5.8% salary increase. The auditor is at $11,761 a month, which is a 7% increase. Prosecuting attorney, they recommend his salary is set at $18,659. I don't have a percentage increase for that because that is in accordance with the way the state sets the salary for the prosecuting attorney. The county matches that. And then for the sheriff, the salary commission has recommended $14,530 per month, which is a 7% increase. As you heard, there are no avenues where the board can change the salary that the salary commission has set for you and has certified to the auditor. Salaries for commissioners is set at $11,630 a month, which is a 5.8% increase. And I'd be happy to attempt to answer any questions that I have. I will say that we would, if possible, we'd like to see the board make a decision so we can get a motion on next week's agenda for you to take action and have the salaries effective January 1st. But if you should delay, they can take effect whenever you so choose.
Questions, comments on this?
Is that delay, would that automatically be retroactive?
No. No, you also heard from your HR staff that we cannot do retroactive pay in the county. That is violation of the gift of public funds.
Okay, so like if we waited until February, we'd just suck it up, right?
That they would lose a month of an increase, if you will, if you delayed until February.
That would be only for other electeds, not
Right,
ours.
the board salary will take effect January 1, regardless of what action you take for everyone else.
I know that there have been issues with meeting quorum and scheduling for the salary commission, but when are they scheduled to meet next?
They have chosen to reconvene next June.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you.
I think it will give us time to discuss other setups of
January planning session.
Yes.
and then if at that point we don't make a decision, maybe we can ask them to reconvene sooner than that. I don't know, like just,
Where we land.
it just depends on where we land.
Well, I'm gonna support the salary commission's recommendations. There's that one lingering issue of the auditor being above the rest of the electeds when that's not really consistent with the schedule and state statute and historical practice of this county, and I really want to hear my seatmate's point of view on that. I could probably go either way on that particular issue. Just leave the salary commission recommendations alone or go the other way, but I'd kind of need to hear you guys' point of view on that.
I can go either way, or we can just do the same percentage that we did, knowing that there's some concerns about the process. We could just do the same percentage that the salary commission did on us for everyone until there is a discussion on which is the way we're gonna proceed with salaries as well. That's another avenue, or we can go as the salary commission has said it, and then
You reduce it, so that's the only caveat, right? If you were to agree and that's at a higher amount, and you couldn't
can't
go
reduce it
backward,
later.
while the person's in office.
So I guess, just for clarification, are you saying that just across the board, other than those that are set by the
That's just-
state, you'd make
yeah.
it 5.8?
so like I don't know how much was
I think it
our
was 5.8.
5.8.
5.8, so just do it 5.8 across.
For,
the
That's
board.
for everybody. Just moving the auditor.
Huh?
How is that different than just moving the auditor?
Well, it's just, I don't know, I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure the other,
Everyone else got 5.8.
did everyone else get
The
5.8?
sheriff got a 7%.
Yeah, the other ones got more. But those were for different reasons, right? The prosecutor's tied to judges or something.
The
and-
prosecutor is tied to the judges. The salary for the prosecutor, half of their salary is set by the state. Half of their salary is set by board. And what the common practice has been in Thurston County is to simply match the state 50-50.
But what about the sheriff?
The sheriff's discussion is a little different. The sheriff's position is recognized as a little different than everyone else in that he is operating law enforcement and a jail. And so they set his salary a little higher. They've done that every year for years.
The salary commission does that.
Yes.
Was there a presentation by the salary commission that I could watch where they kind of give their justification? So like, was there a salary study based on sheriffs across the state? Was it, is it just
So part of the
other comparables for treasurers?
information
Some stuff in the packet, like.
that I think I provided, I kind of condensed it down. There wasn't a survey across the state, but I did provide you the comparables that HR provided to the salary commission, so you can see that, for example, the sheriff in Thurston County is set at just under 163,000. In Benton County, the sheriff earns 128,000. I'm gonna round. In Kitsap, 175,000. In Pierce, 180, and in Snohomish, 179. And consistently, you see that in each of these counties, the sheriff is paid more than the other officials, other than the prosecutor, of course. But in almost every county, what you see is the assessor, the auditor, the treasurer, and the clerk are paid pretty close to the same.
So I come up with
Exactly the same.
6.7, the sheriff got 7%.
The sheriff was, yes, the salary
Auditor
commission
and
has
sheriff.
recommended 7% for the auditor and the sheriff, and 5.8% for the other assessor, treasurer, clerk, coroner, and the Board of County Commissioners. They set at 5.8%.
So are you saying set 5.8 for everyone, including the sheriff?
I'm just, if the fairness issue, I'm just throwing options out there for the board to consider. On whichever direction they would like to go, and can be, I'm also kind of on the same boat. I can be convinced. So I wanted the, just throwing options out there to see what the board would be
Were you gonna say something?
most
I don't wanna
comfortable.
cut you off.
Oh, I didn't raise my hand yet, but
Oh.
I did have something in my brain, but you can go
I just didn't want to cut you off. Well, I kind of like what you're proposing as far as standardize it, make it all, because we can't do anything about ours under the current situation that we're in. We're locked in. I mean, that's where we're at. And just for the sake of fairness and recognizing, what our bargaining unit settled for and all that, I could go along with your proposal, if that's what it is, of a 5.8 for everybody, except like prosecutor, I guess, is, so the sheriff is still gonna get a very substantial raise and everything, and it's just, I don't know, it just seems a little fair, so that's kind of where I would be. If that doesn't run afoul with the process, and it's easier one to argue, we can't do a dang thing about our own. And we're trying to be consistent with everybody and fair.
I had a couple questions. Does anyone have available the number of, like, what would this increase as, let's see, how do I want to say this? How much per year would this increase salaries overall if we approved everybody at the recommendation?
So currently, for example, the assessor is earning $131,904. If you went with the salary commission recommendation for the assessor at the $139,560, that is roughly a little under 8,000, about 7,500 a year of an increase. It's not that much. And so if you did that across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the difference between the sheriffs, I don't know, it's around $50,000-$60,000 a year impact to the general fund. It's not that much. And it's a little more than that because there's 5 commissioners. But the general practice in the county has been for these offices to absorb the additional cost.
Okay, thank you. I also had a question. What is the cost of living, increase just alone without any additional raises? Do we know that?
For county employees,
Yes.
the board has awarded, for, union employees in 2023, the increase is 4%. In 2024, the COLA will be 3.5%
You've
for
got
our union employees. Yeah,
a chart on
we
this.
do have a chart.
And it shows the
Right here.
elected officials versus most other
But you
employees.
see, the elected officials this year received none.
Mm-hmm.
So next year, this increases for next year, the 5.8% doesn't even bring you to the increase that our represented employees will receive. And then our sheriff deputies and correction deputies is a little more than that.
Okay.
And there was a bonus thrown in there. So
There was a bonus that all employees are receiving. Yeah.
At least.
This is just me not understanding, but is it typical that the chief deputies make more than their bosses?
So we think that that is an artifact of elected officials not receiving a pay increase at all in so many years.
Yeah.
Where other employees did receive some type of COLA. I think that if we look at our history, and I would have to ask our HR representatives, but if you look back, I have a table that goes way back to 2007, which is before I joined the county. And it shows that elected officials were given about in 2008, they received a 6.8% increase. In 2009, there was a 10.28% increase. These were an effort to bring their pay into alignment with their staff and address the compression issues. But after so many years of no COLAs for the elected officials, it is out of alignment again, as you see here.
So the elected officials are essentially the CEOs of these different departments are getting paid less than their subordinates. And that seems weird to me, with the exception of the county manager. I would completely expect the county manager to be the highest paid person in the county. But with the assessor, the auditor, the clerk's office, the coroner's office, not the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's office, they're all paid less than their subordinates.
Yes, that's the way it's structured today.
And that's not typical necessarily. That's just
Not
because
typical.
they went for years without raises.
That's right, and I don't know what that comparison looks like in other counties. I have not looked at other counties. But that's part of the reason that I believe the board should look at how the salary commission functions. We tried very hard in these salary commission meetings. I certainly don't have a role to play in those meetings, but like I testified, a number of people testified, trying to get the salary commission, and Ruth tried a few times to get them to talk about amount of salary rather than percent of increase, because the COLA for the elected officials does not translate into a pay that's commensurate with, if you look at other counties, how much are they making, or if you look at how they compare to their staff. We tried very hard to get them to focus on dollar amounts rather than percentages, but they landed on percentages, and the percentages that they talked about were connected, quite frankly, to feelings. They felt like 3% was too low. They felt like 7% was quite high. They landed on 5.8% as a compromise number, but it wasn't tied to real comparables. And I would also say that the Board of County Commissioners has not filled some of the seats that you were responsible to fill. And what I think is an essential person on this commission is the HR seat, and it is empty. So someone who might have had knowledge to help guide is not a good word, but inform the committee on how salaries are set was missing.
The compression, you know, I'm just saying what I hear from the other electeds, which is that they, like if you're the auditor, your elections chief or your deputy might be the best person to succeed you when you retire,
Yeah.
but that person's
Why
never
would they?
gonna,
No
yeah, they're never
incentive.
gonna do that. Or the undersheriff would be the best person to probably, you know, the most experienced person to run for sheriff.
Yeah.
That would be a $30,000 pay
Take a
cut.
pay
No one's gonna
cut,
do
take
it.
a tremendous amount of risk. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things, and you know, because we're in political positions, it's always so touchy about pay, but that's why the salary commission was created, to try to take it out of so that they could do the quote unquote right thing without the politics getting, you know, involved in it. And then we don't have to be responsible for it, but as you can see, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and the salary commission has turned over and different people every year, it seems like, so you don't quite have that consistency maybe that you'd like. Is that a motion, Madam Chair, that you made?
It's not a motion, no. I just wanted to throw it out there so we can have a conversation about the different options that we have and, you know, kind of based on conversation we had at the planning session, and just kind of bring it back up and kind of see where commissioners feel comfortable landing. And then that way, comfortable, we can make a decision next week. If not, then we'll have to wait till January.
I'd kind of like to get it over with myself, if it was up to me. And I think your suggestion, whether it was a motion or not, I'm just kind of curious. Does that sound like a decent compromise for everybody? Kind of, are you locked, you know, in? I'll make a motion that we just go the 5.8.
For all but the prosecutor?
For everybody but the prosecutor.
Inclusive of the sheriff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody. It's not that much of a difference for what the sheriff.
That addresses the parity concern which I expressed to you.
So, I mean, my position is, I don't like any of it, because I've always taken a position that the position should only pay what it pays when you sign up to run for office, and that's the way it ought to be. For, you know, until you run for reelection. But I haven't been successful in making that argument, so I guess this is a compromise. The second best thing is try.
I agree with Commissioner Edwards' thoughts on really what seems right is to not increase it at all, but it doesn't sound like we're quite there in terms of consensus. It sounds like we are trying to find somewhere in the middle. I would like to see a recommendation from the Board of Commissioners to not increase electeds' pay more than we are increasing our county staff, which it looks like they're getting 3.5%. Is that right? They're just getting the cost of living?
They are getting 3.5%, but again, elected officials received nothing this year when our employees received 4%. So if you take a 2-year approach to that, then county employees are getting 7.5% plus a bonus.
And we would be getting about 6.
5.8.
So, I don't know, is that I will make,
Are we making motions, or I thought we were not in a meeting where we make motions?
So, but
What do we-
you need
where
to
would we-
staff need direction to be
Yes.
able to prepare the, a resolution to come before you next week.
Motion's just direction is basically.
so my suggestion for direction, I guess, is that a proper statement, would be
Direction
to,
is to five-
to give a thumbs up to the 5.8 and get it over with, because we cannot do otherwise with our existing ordinance. And then we have to adjust our existing ordinance about, say, to reflect your position. We can't do it without changing that ordinance.
Well, just, oh wait, sorry, never mind. I was gonna say something again about that, but I forgot about how our salaries will go through regardless. But
If you reduce everybody else to 3.5%, that excludes us, and so
Right.
every other elected official would be on.
Well, just to kind of push back a little bit, I'm not trying to drag this out, but if we are, like, let's say all things aside, if we were all in agreement that we would go this way, in terms of like not increasing it if we could, if the ordinance were not on the table, I don't know where we stand on that, cause we've kind of stopped talking about it since it's not possible to delay our salary increase. But if we all did feel like the fair thing to do would be to not increase anything, couldn't we just delay the recommendation for everybody else, and then once we have the ordinance resolved, we could just decrease ours back to where they were before?
Can't
No,
decrease.
there's no ability to
Oh, really?
decrease.
And we can't stop ours.
Within a term of office.
We're stuck with this thing.
Okay.
It could remain flat, but it can't go down.
Okay.
Remain flat after the bump.
Correct.
So I'm just gonna be in.
I'm gonna go with Commissioner Edwards on this, just to get it done.
I don't see another reasonable option other than to.
I respect the democratic process, but I can't vote yes on that. So I would be voting no if we decided to move forward with that recommendation.
Okay, so also with the rest of the commission on this. Okay. So,
All right, so just to, so I am clear, it's a 5.8% increase for the assessor, the auditor, the clerk, coroner, the treasurer, and the sheriff, and the prosecuting attorney at a match with what the state pays. Great, thank you.
okay. Next is the recruitment of county manager, and we've all received a binder with the applications on them as well as an email. And so the idea was for two commissioners, since there wouldn't be a quorum, to participate in the interview process, and then after that we can so we'll have a conversation once I think December 18th was when staff wanted to have kind of that first review and conversation. So just with that, I guess, I kind of want to see if there's anyone interested. I do want to suggest that the two commissioners who are, if, I'm not sure for the other three commissioners, if we can submit recommendations on like people that we liked, you know, that just to have that conversation, maybe we can send those either to one of the commissioners, or I'm not sure, or to Robin or Maria.
So Commissioner Mensah has indicated he's willing to sit in on the selection process, and we will, might be on the 18th, but sometime during the week of the 18th is when we'd schedule that, and I'm looking for one more person who would like to sit with me and Maria, okay? All right, and so, Commissioner Klaus and Commissioner Mensah, and then Commissioner Edwards, Mahan, Fournier, please give me your feedback on, you know, what your thoughts are when you read through the applicants. You've got the binders. Commissioner Mejia said.
Yep.
So can I clarify? Is what's the timing of this?
We will set, now that I know who will participate, we can set the meeting up. But the timing is hopefully sometime during the week of the 18th.
For interviewing candidates?
For
or meeting to discuss?
selecting applicants to interview.
Okay.
And then we will schedule the interviews for after January 9th.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good.
When do you need the recommendations by?
If we're not gonna meet until the week of the 18th, then we'd need them by the 15th.
Okay. I will get those to you. Okay, next is TST grants.
So this item had been on your agenda for a vote. It got pushed out. It has now been moved to the agenda of January 9th. So in light of the fact that it's a little after 12, I would suggest that we delay this conversation. And if you have questions about these grants, I would recommend that you arrange a meeting with Shaylin.
Okay.
She did provide backup information to the top candidates, to Commissioner Klaus. I will forward those to everyone else.
This is about the
This is about the community grants from TST.
Monarch, all that.
Uh-huh, this is where we have 300,000 to spend and you got 4.5 million in.
Right.
Why are we delaying?
Yeah, why are we delaying it? I thought we were supposed to make a decision this week. Next week.
Commissioner Klaus had asked for a little more time, and so there's a consideration to move Interfaith Works up into the approved category, and to do that, you would have to move someone in the approved category out. And we had been going to delay that to December 12th. However, for reasons I do not know, Shaylin has moved it to January 9th.
Okay.
Can we get a clarification from Shaylin on why January 9th? Yeah, I thought we mean, were gonna do this on the yeah. 12th. The reason that this was brought forward at, with that specific timing was because they needed to get these contracts done so they could, the grantees could get that funding and start at the beginning of the year. So there's gonna be delays in that, then I'm just, I guess I don't remember having that discussion to delay it past the 12th. yeah, that's kind of my recollection, so. That's all I can say.
We do not know why she pushed it out, but she did.
Well, she's
I
not,
can
but she's not
certainly-
running the show.
That's absolutely true. And perhaps it was just to give more time, but I will find out why. And if you prefer to take action on this on the 12th, then we will attempt to find time on your calendars when you can discuss this.
I thought we kind of.
Time you needed? Do you need more time?
No, I didn't need any more time. I'm not sure why it got pushed to the 9th either.
Jamie has her hand.
She emailed me the other day asking, when I was asking for the AIS to be finalized, if it would be, and then she emailed back saying that she had a meeting about the community grant contracts that she needed to get done before she could finalize the AIS, and after that meeting, she asked to bump it to the 9th, so I'm assuming that's something about those contracts.
Yeah, but that might have been the meeting
If you
coming up.
take action on January 9th, I can say that we could make these retroactive. You vote on many retroactive contracts.
Okay.
So they
yeah.
could be retroactive to January 1.
I guess that's fine, yeah. Just more clarification from Shaylin, I think would be good for the board and,
just because, I mean, when this presentation came forward, the timing issue was really pushed on us, and so now that it's being pushed on till the 9th, it's, what's going on is kind of like,
Sure.
So we still have the possibility of doing it on the 12th.
yeah, we're gonna get an
But we'll
explanation.
just see what the deal
what-
is.
what the. Okay, next for commissioners' items, it's 12:10. And we do have an executive session that, so Robin, what's the timing? I know the EEOP, I got an email from the auditor where they received a grant, but they're saying they need the EEOP. And so I don't
So
want to
we-
push this out because we need a status on that, and
I
especially.
agree. So let's very quickly address the other two items on the list. The transition from the TC Media update, can you do it in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Yep, go.
Okay. So there's 2 letters currently circulating through the jurisdictions for city administrators and the county manager to sign, both of which been reviewed by legal. One is to Comcast, notifying them of the intent for the cities of Lacey and Tumwater to maintain their 2 channels. And then the city of Olympia and Thurston County to maintain channel 3 as we currently have it set. It also notifies Comcast of the intent to allow TC Media to continue to post to channel 22, which is the public access channel, as a designated service provider. The second letter is to go to TC Media, notifying them of the option to continue to post public access content to channel 22. Should TC Media wish to continue to post public access content to channel 22, we have a resolution that's already been approved by legal to name them as a designated service provider for public access, giving them continued access to post to channel 22.
At no cost.
There is no fiduciary responsibility to the county, it's just granting them access to post to the channel.
And no cost to TC Media to post.
There is no fiduciary responsibility. We're also meeting with Comcast tomorrow to talk about our connection to post to channel 3. We may not be able to post to channel 3 for a bit after the beginning of the year because we don't know what the access is yet or if the building has enough access. We will be working with them on that. And then Kelly with the City of Olympia and myself are gonna be meeting to discuss how we're gonna manage channel 3 because we share it. So we will have to work out a schedule for posting. So those are my updates.
All right, so there's your update.
Go ahead.
Where does YouTube fit in this?
YouTube has nothing to do with this.
So
We
the
can
citizenry will still be
Yes.
able to follow our meetings on
100%,
YouTube?
yes. Yep, it's just the Comcast channels, channel 3.
Okay.
Any additional questions on that? No? Okay.
Okay, on the board meeting schedule, Jamie, Rob, and I are going to get together and work on a hybrid recommendation to the board about what your meeting schedule will look like. I am asking the board to agree to not change the meeting schedule until February because we are holding scheduling for January until we get some clarity on this. We need to start scheduling for January. So if we could bring you back a meeting schedule that doesn't begin until February, that would give us time to work something out and allow us to schedule. So
Yeah, that's fine.
good to go on that? All right.
Are we giving you the thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways? What are we doing?
I'm looking for a thumbs up to not
Direction?
begin a new calendar until January. Thank you.
No, I guess I'm okay.
Thank you very much. Staff need time. And that brings you to the EEOP.
Okay. Stevie here?
Yes, she is. Bless you.
I mean, the update that I have is just I met with Brandon from the auditor's office, and he just gave me information on what I think was in the works at the beginning of the year. I've recently got county data from HR that I would use to put into this utility report, and really right now I'm just trying to understand how to put together the report. So I'm hoping to get an updated plan to you by January or February, I'm not sure. I haven't gauged how long it's gonna take to put together this report, but I'm actively educating myself on this process.
What about the auditor? I thought needed some.
So, yeah. So she was, also the plan that Brandon helped put together had the end date for February as well. So that kind of falls in line with kind of what her needs are. You know, she was making us aware that, you know, they did receive a grant for 25,000 from the US Department of Justice. And this is to install a ballistic proof door at the new voting center. And then we can't accept the award or receive the money until we have a countywide EEOP. So this is, so based on that timeline, it seems like it falls in line with also what the auditor's expectations were, because she did say, you know, Brandon put together a plan that had a completion date end of February, so.
Brandon put together a work plan,
Yes.
just to be very clear.
Yeah, not the actual like countywide plan.
No.
So, but it kind of falls in line with what you're saying, that you would get done by February, January, February.
The challenge is right now there's not a central, my understanding is we don't centrally track individual activities like promotions, terminations, demotions, and that's something that needs to be included in the plan. So I'm figuring out how to manage what we are actually required to put in the plan and what I can do within the time crunch.
Doesn't somebody have a plan already in the county? It's just not a county plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the prosecutor and the sheriff's office, I think public defense? And
yeah.
public defense, they
How
have,
come we can't plagiarize one of those and just add a few words to it?
So it's really the utilization report, which is, I believe, what the auditor's office is saying we need to be compliant, that we have to include data for the whole county. Right now, those 3 offices have individual plans and their own individual data on recruitment and hiring, terminations, and so on, but we need it for the whole county. So like the
Burden on HR.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy kills me sometimes.
so then January, February, you're saying you can do something with the data that you've received so far?
I plan on reaching out to this, is it the state or who? DOJ, I think is who requires, yeah. To figure out if we're able to bypass the specific information that I can't get at a central like data set from the county. Because right now the 3 offices that have their own reports, I guess individual offices and departments, their HR staff track those, but I don't think it's a consistent process. So I don't believe that we have that data set consistently across the county.
Right. And not every office or department has their own HR people, so. There's more to this than we need a plan.
So it's really figuring out if the data that I have, that I've received, that's at a countywide level, is that acceptable? Will that put us in compliance? So that's what I'm focusing on right now.
So I've never seen this plan. I don't know exactly how difficult it is, but it's obviously not going away. This came up a few years ago. It's coming up again now. So whatever is required, we need it. I mean, so if HR needs to start tracking promotions and terminations, they have to start doing that. That's just something, like, we can't keep missing out on opportunities for funding, and it's not just something that was a one-time thing. This has come up over and over and over again. So
yes,
we just have to get a list of what we need and put the systems in place to collect it and just bite the bullet, because I don't see that this is gonna solve itself.
No, and that is what we've been working on. The county manager had said that he would assign this, and he did assign it to the prior equity coordinator. It did not progress. Then when Devi joined the county, Romero set her priorities. This was not on her highest priority list, but we have moved it up. So it is getting worked on. We know it's something that we need. It's been on the radar. It's just not been at the top of the list.
Like, why can't we move it to the top? As per.
As I've told you,
Well, I mean,
it
and I'm,
has
and I
been
mean,
moved
you-
to the top of DUV's list.
I guess I'm just, and I know we heard during the, I know how stretched thin HR is, but,
That's right.
and again, that's why I preface my comments by saying, I haven't seen the plan to know what's in it, but it feels to me from everything I've heard, like there may be more HR pieces to it than there are racial equity pieces to it. So to put this on Devi's back, I mean, she needs the help of HR, I think,
She
to
does.
get this done. We have to work as a team.
Right. It's not as simple as someone writing a plan. If it was that simple.
That part is already
yeah,
done. It's
Yeah.
the data, so
It's the data collection piece.
the first part of the EOP is just kind of, that's the written plan, and it's pretty standard. It's got metrics of Thurston County, it's got basically our population, our just
Yeah.
different, and then different metrics in there, and then it breaks it down by office. It's got it's just really standard data. Then the second section, which is where it gets a little bit more complicated, that the prosecutor, public defense, and the sheriffs have, those are specific data metrics, and it's like just the level of employees, it's just got different things, different buckets that it's broken into. That's the piece that Devi's saying that, it's a little bit more difficult because it's countywide and it's harder because HR has not been tracking this data.
So we're gonna reach out to Department of Justice and see if they'll accept what we do have. And if not, hopefully they will give guidance on what we need to do instead.
Yeah, and I do plan on working closely with HR. Right now, I think our system that HR uses is not set up to collect this data. And so if we're talking about getting the county set up in a way that streamlines this process, that's a pretty big undertaking. So I'll just keep on that conversation because is there a new HR system coming in place, I thought? So I don't know if this.
The ERP will enable us, but that's a year out.
And Auditor Hall just sent me a message saying that their grants manager has already been in contact with DOJ and has already collected some of the information, and they're willing to share it with us.
Would be happy to turn this task over to the auditor's office if they would like to do it.
So we're not looking to do it, we're looking to offer resources to help. DV is not in this alone. We're happy to help with staff that we have so that together we can get this done as quickly as possible. And we have multiple staff in the auditor's office.
But duplication of effort is not helpful,
That's
but
why
thank
there's a
you.
plan for a plan. We didn't want to do it ourselves. We don't want her to have to do it alone. We're happy to assist. Just want to let you know that help is available.
Thank you.
Could we at least, though, kind of move forward with the idea of almost got it? We always make adjustments to plans and stuff, so.
So
we'll
the
do a review
auditor,
next year.
the internal auditor and the grants manager have put in writing that the county does not qualify to accept this money because we don't currently have EEOP. And part of accepting the money involves me signing a certificate that says we do have an EEOP, and I am not going to sign something that says we do when we have in writing that we don't.
Well, no, but needing one and having one doesn't mean that it has to be the best one in the whole country. It can
We're
just
not trying
be
to
a
get the best,
beginner-
we're just trying to
a
get one
beginner
that
one, and
satisfies
when we
the
can
Department of
revive
Justice.
and revise it at a later date.
No,
Yeah.
we're just trying to get one that'll pass the DOJ.
Yeah, that's the way I'm approaching it, is the data that I have access to, will DOJ accept it, and then get that in place so that we can sign the certificate, can, receive these grants, and then I'll just keep working with HR on systems that will help us collect the most accurate data.
So with this data collection, right, it's a lot of work. I realize that, right? And DV, thank you for, I'm wondering if, knowing that not everyone has an HR person, right? But maybe if HR just handles the offices and departments that don't have an HR person, and then have the offices and departments that do have an HR person kind of help assist with this data collection. That way, the whole impact of it doesn't just fall on HR. Is there a way to just spread the workload is kind of what I'm.
I think my understanding of the challenge that HR would be experiencing in doing that is that if the departments and offices that don't have their own person, the data hasn't been collected. So how do they effectively go back to all of the recruitment processes that have happened over the past year and say, okay, this person with this race and ethnicity got promoted or terminated versus they quit versus they were demoted. That's, I think, extremely time consuming.
We're working on it.
So let me just connect with DOJ and present what we have and get into the system that they have to develop this utilization report and see if that can be accepted for now. And then I can update everyone on what that response is.
The Auditor Hall is joining. Auditor Hall, I know you've been listening to the conversation.
Yes, I have. So if I could just speak to it, I'm a big believer that many hands, can you hear me?
Yes, we were getting an echo there.
Oh.
There we go. Auditor Hall, can you?
I'm trying to turn off my YouTube. I can't find it anymore.
I guess while you're doing that, I will announce, because I received it, because I signed up for the
TC alert.
TC alert. So everyone who has not signed up for TC alert, that there's a flood warning that's been issued for the Chehalis River until Friday. So for those communities impacted by that area, just be aware.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of data to gather, and that's really the issue here. My grants manager has talked to DOJ quite extensively about what they will and will not accept. So I would recommend, Devi, that you speak with her instead of reaching out again. They hear from us a lot. But I really believe that many hands make light work. And I certainly understand that this is going to touch every department. But if we could set up a template, for example, for departments to use to gather this data, and every department submitted their own data, it may not be that difficult. And, I'm a big believer that, I always look for the simplicity in things. And we've talked about this a lot in my office. And I think that Diana and Brandon could help, Kathy could help. We'll share our resources and work with you in partnership to pull this data together. I agree, it doesn't have to be the, best plan in the world. It just needs to check all the boxes with DOJ. But there are other grants that I need to apply for because there are things that I need to do, which we'll talk about when we're having an executive session talking about security, that you're not going to want to fund because we don't have the money for it, but they qualify, these projects qualify for grant money, but we're going to turn it around because we're in 2024 in a matter of days. So please, let's work together on this. Let us help you. And I really think if we work together as a team, we can knock this out quickly.
Thank you. So Dee Dee, just please keep us updated, whatever resources you need. And then shooting for that February date. If it's done sooner, yay. If not, then that's kind of the.
Do you all, I don't believe the previous one went through an adoption process. Is that something that, like, do we just put together the plan? Does it need to go to you as a briefing or an official vote? Or
We can figure that out.
okay.
How about just a quick thing. Rob, did you guys have something like this over in Kitsap County?
I'm sure, but I honestly
know.
can't
I
recall
mean,
whether or not
have
it
you
was a
contacted
countywide one or just for
Other
the sheriff's
places that, why can't we plagiarize something? We don't have to build our own.
I would feel uncomfortable doing that.
Well, I don't really care. I have to say, if it's gonna take it to get it done, you can make modifications to it later. If it was accepted by DOJ, what does it matter?
Commissioner, the written plan itself is not the issue here, it's the data. We can't lift another county's data. We've got the plan
No, I'm not saying use
ready.
their data, but the
But see,
template.
the part that you would copy, if you will, is done. That part's
That's already done.
It's just the data.
Okay. Sorry.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Auditor Hall. Okay. So now we're gonna go and head into executive session. We're going to executive session for RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to the agency enforcement actions or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in official capacity is or is likely to become a party. When public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency, Radcliffe versus Thurston County. 20 minutes. Okay, we are back from executive session. We're in executive session for RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1I to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency matters relating to agency enforcement actions, or to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation or potential litigation to which the agency, the governing body, or a member acting in official capacity is or is likely to become a party, and public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency. Radcliffe versus Thurston County. It is 12:54. No commissioner's action follows. With that, we've reached the end of our agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you.